I want you to picture something. You've just turned 65. You've worked for over 4 decades. You've paid taxes, raised a family, showed up to countless jobs, and done everything society told you to do. Now it's time to retire. You sit down with a financial advisor to discuss your options. They pull up your accounts. They look at the numbers. Then they look at you with an expression you'll never forget, a mixture of sympathy and discomfort. The number on the screen representing your entire life savings is $88,400. That's it. That's what you have to fund potentially 30 years of retirement. Your Social Security will help, but it averages around $1,900 per month. Combined with drawing down your savings, you'll have roughly $2,200 monthly to cover housing, food, healthcare, transportation, and everything else. You immediately start doing math you never wanted to do. Can I afford to stay in my house? Will I need to move in with my children? What happens when the savings run out? This isn't a hypothetical scenario. This is the median reality for American retirees right now. Half of all people approaching retirement have less than $88,400 saved. Many have nothing at all. Today I'm going to show you exactly what the average person retires with, why the numbers are far worse than most people realize, and the specific factors that separate the people who retire comfortably from the people who retire into financial anxiety. Some of what I'm about to share will be uncomfortable, but understanding reality is the first step toward changing it. Let me start with the data that financial institutions don't put in their advertisements. The Federal Reserve conducts a survey of consumer finances every 3 years, providing the most comprehensive look at American household wealth. The most recent data reveals a retirement crisis hiding in plain sight. For households where the head is between 55 and 64, the median retirement savings is approximately $134,000. That means half of all households in their final working decade have less than $134,000 saved. Many have dramatically less. For households where the head is 65 to 74 and already in retirement, the median drops to around $88,400. This decline happens because people spend down their savings in early retirement, while Social Security and pensions take over as primary income sources. These median numbers obscure an even harsher reality. The mean, or average, retirement savings is much higher because a small number of wealthy households pull the number up dramatically. When the mean is $400,000, but the median is $88,000, that tells you most people have very little, while a few people have enormous amounts. The bottom 50% of households aged 55 to 64 have virtually no retirement savings at all. Not low savings, effectively zero. They'll rely entirely on Social Security, family support, or continued work through what were supposed to be their retirement years. Let me translate these statistics into lived experience. Someone retiring today with $88,400 in savings using the 4% safe withdrawal rule can pull approximately $3,536 annually from their portfolio. That's $295 per month from savings. Add the average Social Security benefit of roughly $1,900 monthly, and total retirement income reaches about $2,195 per month. That's $26,340 annually to fund all living expenses. The federal poverty line for a single person is approximately $15,000 annually. So the median retiree isn't impoverished by official definitions, but they're not far above that threshold either. They're one major medical expense away from crisis, one home repair away from depleting their cushion. This isn't the retirement that decades of work were supposed to produce, yet it's the retirement that most Americans actually experience. Here's what makes these numbers even more concerning. They represent the current generation of retirees, many of whom had advantages that younger generations don't. Many current retirees spent their careers during an era of defined benefit pensions. Their employers guaranteed retirement income for life. Many bought homes when housing was affordable relative to income. They had stable employment with the same company for decades and faced less student debt burden starting their careers. Each of these advantages is diminishing or disappearing for younger generations. Pensions have been replaced by 401k plans that shift all risk to employees. Housing costs have risen dramatically faster than wages. Job stability has decreased, while healthcare costs have exploded. The generation currently retiring with $88,400 median savings had significant tailwinds. The generation coming behind them faces headwinds instead. Without major behavioral changes, the retirement crisis will worsen, not improve. Let me break down exactly where the money goes wrong for most people, because understanding the failure points reveals the intervention points. The first failure point is simply never starting. The most powerful factor in retirement outcomes is time in the market. Someone who invests $300 monthly, starting at 25, will accumulate dramatically more than someone who invests $600 monthly, starting at 45. The early starter has 40 years of compounding. The late starter has 20 years of catching up. Yet most people don't invest meaningfully until their 30s or 40s. Their 20s disappear into lifestyle establishment, debt repayment, and delayed financial education. Each year of delay costs them exponentially because the earliest years produce the largest compound returns. Someone who saved just $200 monthly from age 22 to age 30 and then stopped entirely would have more at 65 than someone who saved $200 monthly from age 40 to 65. 10 years of early investing beats 25 years of late investing. The math seems counterintuitive until you understand how powerfully compounding rewards early action. The second failure point involves savings rate collapse during middle adulthood. Many people who start saving in their 20s reduce or eliminate contributions during their 30s and 40s. Children arrive, houses get purchased, lifestyle expands to consume income. The retirement account contributions become temporarily paused when expenses mount. The pause often extends far longer than intended. By the time contributions resume, over a decade of compound growth has been sacrificed. The catching up required becomes mathematically daunting. The third failure point involves premature retirement account access. When people change jobs, they often cash out their retirement accounts rather than rolling them over. The immediate cash feels valuable. The long-term cost remains invisible. A 28-year-old who cashes out a $15,000 401k when changing jobs doesn't just lose $15,000. After paying the 10% early withdrawal penalty and income taxes, they might receive $10,000 in cash. More importantly, they lose what that $15,000 would have become over 37 years of growth. At 8% annual returns, that's potentially over $250,000 at retirement. Studies show that roughly 40% of workers cash out retirement accounts when changing jobs. This single behavior destroys hundreds of billions in potential retirement wealth. The fourth failure point involves the assumption that catching up later will be possible. Someone who wants to retire at 65 with $500,000 and start saving at 25 needs to save approximately $285 monthly at 8% returns. Someone who starts the same goal at 45 needs to save approximately $1,200 monthly. Most people cannot quadruple their savings rate in their late 40s. Their expenses have solidified. Their lifestyle has crystallized. The assumption that catching up would be possible proves catastrophically wrong. The fifth failure point involves poor investment choices among those who do save. Many workers keep their 401k contributions in default money market funds, earning 2 to 3% annually. Over decades, the difference between 3% returns and 8% returns is enormous. Someone investing $400 monthly for 35 years at 3% accumulates approximately $295,000. The same contributions at 8% accumulate approximately $870,000. The investment choice alone creates a $575,000 gap. Both people saved identically. One retires with nearly triple the wealth simply because of how their money was invested. Let me show you what separates the people who retire comfortably from the people who retire with $88,400. The first differentiator is early automation. People who retire comfortably set up automatic contributions before they develop expensive lifestyles. The money moved from paycheck to retirement account before they ever saw it. They built their spending habits around what remained, rather than trying to save what remained after spending. People who retire with $88,400 typically relied on manual saving. They intended to transfer money when they could afford it. Somehow, they could never afford it. The intention never converted to action because consistency required repeated decisions that rarely got made. The second differentiator is contribution rate. Comfortable retirees consistently saved 15 to 20% of income throughout their careers. Those retiring with $88,400 typically saved 5% or less. The difference between 5% and 15% seems manageable in any single year. Over 30 years, it's the difference between $200,000 and $600,000 or more. The third differentiator is investment strategy. Comfortable retirees maintained age-appropriate stock allocations throughout their careers. They didn't panic during market downturns. They held diversified portfolios and let time work. Those retiring with $88,400 often made multiple investment errors. They sold during market crashes. They kept everything in cash equivalents. They concentrated in single stocks that underperformed. Investment behavior matters as much as investment amount. The fourth differentiator is debt management. Comfortable retirees entered retirement with little or no debt beyond possibly a mortgage. Those retiring with $88,400 often enter retirement still carrying car payments, credit card balances, and home equity loans. These debt payments consume fixed income that should fund living expenses. The fifth differentiator is healthcare planning. Comfortable retirees understood that healthcare represents the largest expense category in retirement. They funded health savings accounts during working years. They researched Medicare options thoroughly. A couple retiring today should expect to spend approximately $315,000 on healthcare throughout retirement. For someone with $88,400 in total savings, healthcare alone could consume the entire balance within a decade. Let me walk through what life actually looks like for someone retiring with typical savings. Margaret retired at 66 with $92,000 in savings and her Social Security benefit of $1,847 monthly. Her husband had passed away several years earlier, leaving her as a single retiree. Her monthly budget breaks down like this. Social Security provides $1,847. She withdraws approximately $300 from savings. Total monthly income is $2,147. Her monthly expenses include $875 for a small apartment, $285 for Medicare premiums plus supplemental coverage, $180 for groceries, $210 for utilities and phone, $125 for her car payment, $95 for car insurance and gas, $187 for medications not fully covered by insurance, and approximately $190 for everything else. This budget totals $2,147, meaning Margaret has exactly zero discretionary spending. Every dollar is allocated before it arrives. Any unexpected expense creates immediate crisis. When her car needed $1,100 in repairs last winter, she had to skip a month of medication to cover the cost. When her refrigerator failed, she put the replacement on a credit card she's still paying off. When her grandson graduated from high school, she couldn't afford a meaningful gift. Margaret isn't living in poverty by official measures. She's living in financial precarity, where every day requires choices between necessities. This is the median retirement experience in America. The cruel irony is that small behavioral changes earlier in her career could have produced dramatically different outcomes. An additional $200 monthly in savings from age 30 to 65 would have given her $350,000 instead of $92,000. That additional $258,000 would have more than doubled her monthly income. But Margaret didn't know. Nobody explained the math to her in terms she could act on. The future felt distant. The present felt pressing. The savings never happened. The gap between median and comfortable retirement doesn't require high income. It requires specific behaviors maintained consistently over time. Consider two workers who both earn $55,000 annually throughout their careers. One saves 5% in their 401k with a 3% employer match. One saves 15% with the same match. After 35 years at 8% returns, the 5% saver has approximately $470,000. The 15% saver has approximately $1,080,000. Same income, same employer match, different behavior, producing $610,000 in different outcomes. The 15% saver's additional 10% of income equals approximately $460 monthly or $15 daily. The daily cost of a comfortable versus precarious retirement is roughly the price of a modest lunch. This daily framing reveals something important. The gap between retirement outcomes isn't created by large sacrifices. It's created by small daily choices compounded over decades. The person who packs lunch instead of buying it and invests the difference is making a retirement decision. They just don't see it that way in the moment. If you're watching this and recognizing yourself in the trajectory toward $88,400, the math works in reverse too. Starting to save $15 daily today changes your trajectory. The earlier in your career, the larger the impact. But even starting in your 50s creates meaningful improvement over the baseline. Someone with nothing saved at 50 who begins investing $500 monthly at 7% returns accumulates approximately $127,000 by 65. That's 40% more than the median. Combined with Social Security and potentially part-time work, it creates options that zero savings does not. Let me give you actionable steps based on where you currently stand. If you're in your 20s or early 30s, you have the most powerful asset available: time. Start contributing immediately. Capture any employer match. Increase your contribution by 1 percentage point annually until you reach 15%. Invest in low-cost index funds. Avoid early withdrawals regardless of how tempting immediate cash seems. If you're in your late 30s or 40s with some savings but behind schedule, increase your savings rate aggressively. Eliminate lifestyle expenses that don't provide meaningful value. Max out catch-up contributions once you reach 50. Delay retirement if possible, because each additional working year both adds savings and reduces the years retirement must fund. If you're in your 50s with little saved, hard choices become necessary. Saving 20 to 25% of income may be required. Working into your late 60s or early 70s becomes likely. Downsizing housing deserves consideration. Social Security delayed until 70 increases benefits by roughly 8% annually between full retirement age and 70. Regardless of your current position, one principle applies universally. Action today beats optimal action tomorrow. The median saver didn't reach $88,400 through terrible decisions. They reached it through delayed decisions. The perpetual, "I'll start next year," became, "I should have started years ago," before they realized what had happened. Learning that the median retirement savings is $88,400 can trigger two opposite reactions. Some people feel motivated to change behavior immediately. Others feel fatalistic, concluding that if most people fail, failure must be inevitable. The fatalistic response is understandable but incorrect. The median outcome results from median behavior. Different behavior produces different outcomes. Consider that the top quartile of retirement savers has over $500,000 accumulated. The top 10% exceeds $1 million. These people don't have dramatically higher incomes than everyone else. They have different financial behaviors maintained over decades. The gap between $88,400 and $500,000 isn't created by income. It's created by consistency, priority, and time. All three remain available to anyone learning this information before they've retired. Each person watching this video faces a choice. Accept the median trajectory and the median outcome, or reject the median trajectory through specific behavioral changes and create a different outcome. The choice isn't made once. It's made daily through small decisions that compound into drastically different retirement realities. The morning coffee purchased instead of made. The car upgraded instead of maintained. The savings contribution reduced instead of increased. The investment left in cash instead of properly allocated. These small choices, repeated thousands of times, become the difference between $88,400 and $500,000. The median retiree didn't choose to have $88,400. They chose a series of daily behaviors that produced $88,400. Each individual choice seemed reasonable. The cumulative result was not. Understanding this dynamic is the first step toward changing it. You cannot accidentally save your way to a comfortable retirement. You must intentionally behave differently than the majority who end up with $88,400. The person watching this at 25 and adjusting behavior immediately could retire with 5 times the median savings. The person watching at 40 and making changes could retire with double or triple. Even the person watching at 55 can meaningfully improve their trajectory. The only failure is knowing the stakes and choosing not to act. $88,400 represents the cost of default behavior. It doesn't have to represent your future. What you do tomorrow and every day after determines which statistic you become.